So I'd like to introduce Sharon Zoe. Sharon, I met at the Indian Valley Organic Farm when we were doing nursery work there and growing fruit trees at that orchard there in Marin County in Novato. And she came as a student and was a very eager learner. We learned grafting. We taught her grafting. And since then, she has just gone on to learn with some of the best, including Orden Martin from the Santa Cruz Farm and Garden and the Chadwick Gardens, an amazing intensive apple and garden. If you've never been up there, I highly recommend that. And maybe we'll get her to lead a little tour out there. It's a little out of our realm, but Santa Cruz, it's not that much farther, another hour, you know. So I'm really pleased that Sharon has invited us here as a volunteer here, and also really having the skills to look at these trees and ask them, what do you need? How can I help you? You know, some of the trees have been somewhat neglected, or they have, you know, we all have our problems. Gophers, you know, on and on. But especially with pruning and management, and now she's going to share some of that with us in a walking tour after our tasting. So first we'll have a tasting. We want to get to know some of these varieties. We'll have brief comments on every variety here. We have 18 varieties. And then we'll go on a little walking tour. Does that sound like fun?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some little snacks and refreshments on the table for you there too. Sometimes you need a little break and eat a cracker or something, you know, after 18 apple varieties. But at the end, I also want to make some announcements about other apple tastings that are coming up in this next month too. So thank you, Sharon, so much for doing this. And what would you like to share with us today?
I'll start with a little bit of history and then go on to tasting ASAP. So this orchard was first planted in the 1980s by Emil Lindquist, who was an active member of CRFG at the time, and also John Hansen. They propagated these trees. They were both apple collectors, not so much commercial. Yes, and of course, Todd Kennedy was here too.
For those of you who don't know Todd Kennedy, you should. He was one of the originating members in the Santa Clara Valley chapter, a fruit historian and documentarian. He operates the Arboretum nursery.
No longer.
Oh, look online and you'll see his lovely poetic descriptions of all the varieties he used to sell there. Is that still up? I've seen it recently.
Some people tell me it is, some people don't.
Okay.
To confess to the worst crime of all, yesterday Andy Mariani cut down my entire apple collection of 87 trees, all gone. He's replacing them with peaches.
Some people are like that, and Andy can't stand apples, so I'm amazed that he let you do that in the first place. But
I am looking for somebody who's got a few rootstocks, like 4 rootstocks, to save 4 precious varieties.
Oh,
not safe
yes.
elsewhere.
Okay, anybody? We'll get back to you on that. Todd was also involved in the Filoli, reestablishing the Filoli Gentleman's Orchard. And he was also in charge of the new variety documentation, the new cultivar registry for the rare fruit growers. And so,
donated to Wolfsburg.
Oh yes, if you go to the tastings at Wolfskull and taste any kind of stone fruit, many figs and other species.
Sure those came from that.
Oh, okay. Well, many have your name on them. I'm not sure which ones, but if you look at where the sources are, Todd Kennedy donated many cultivars to the germplasm repository there. What can you add to this discussion about the establishment of this orchard?
This is actually the continuation of a long tradition. In the days of Emil Lindquist and John Hansen, the regional parks actually had an autumn festival which used these apples, and they mostly made juice out of them. It was a day-long thing. There were several hundred of the public who would show up for it, so it was a big deal. So,
Can everybody hear okay?
probably not.
Yeah. Yes.
I've attended one of those. It was pleasant, more of a kid's thing. Today we're getting serious.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So With the mention of Filoli, I also like to introduce Jackie Salash. And Jackie is the horticulturist at Filoli. Feel really honored that she wants to be here today.
I feel so special to be here. I've grown up in Hayward, and I went to the festival when I was Eva's age. This is Eva, my daughter.
Hi, Eva.
But I haven't been back in this orchard ever in my life, so I'm so excited to be here. So it's personal and professional for me today. And Todd, I have some rootstock for you.
It comes back around.
But you'll want the trees. that
No,
come from it.
yeah, whatever you want.
You should have the
I'll just
trees
give
for
you
you.
the rootstock.
And what year was the orchard established again? Remind us.
1980s, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe early 80s?
Well, it depends on which orchard you're talking about. This was originally a dry farm apricot orchard where these apples are now. And that was back in the 1920s. And everywhere where you see an almond, there's not a commercial almond orchard.
Right.
They are actually either old rootstocks that are sprouted out that used to support apricot trees, or squirrels have planted an almond there from one of the rootstocks. They're bitter almonds,
Yeah.
and I don't advise having very many of them.
Okay, so after its planting, so a lot of these trees were propagated in 5-gallon buckets. And I understand that Emil just had so many of the growing in his like standard suburban sized house yard.
Oh, it's crazy.
Huh?
It was crazy. He had them stacked up, 5-gallon tubs, each with an apple tree in it, and they were stacked up like pyramids in old grocery stores.
I've never done that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that was when the first planting took place. I think some of those trees, some of the larger trees are probably from the original planting. And one of his most favorite variety is Hudson's Golden Gem. So there are 4 of those trees in this orchard, where at most you'll see 2 of each variety. Let's see. And then over the years, with different management changes, sometimes the orchard didn't do very well, and other times they put in extra effort. So maybe there was another round of planting done about 15, 20 years ago. And then 3 years ago, the orchard was in really bad shape. And that was when Dave Worley became the manager of the park. And he really took on restoring the orchard. And first of all, he got irrigation. They have actually well water, so they irrigate. If anything, sometimes too much. And he ordered some new trees and, whatever that sounds interesting to him. And I'm trying to work with him in maybe getting some even newer planting. And so I myself, my training is in farming, so production orchard. Care of trees for production orchard. So all my perspective is farming perspective. So so I came in and I saw these trees and I said, a lot of these trees are stunted because of the pruning practices they've been under. So I suggested to Dave, I would like to come in and work on some of these trees. And he really, really welcomed me and was very, very supportive. And so that's a brief discussion of the history. I'm still working on teaching them how to plant trees.
And when we take our little walking tour, I'm sure we can get into more details about the planting, the management, the irrigation, the pruning, whatever.
Yeah. So should we move on to the apples?
I think we should. Well, let's.
Oh, yes.
So, quick question. How many varieties of apples are there? Take a guess. Varieties of apples.
10,000.
Sorry?
1,000.
Thousands.
3,000.
So there's a set of books back there that I brought to people to look through. It lists about 10,000 apples. It's 7 volumes, A through Z, and you can look through it. It has actually pictures of some of the apples.
Wear the gloves, please.
Yeah. And then two things. I also provided this piece of paper. This site has a list of apples. I don't know, they maybe have a few thousand there. A through Z, again, you can click on it and tells you all about the apples. They also have a pollinator part to it because I'm sure most of you know, most apples are self-sterile. In other words, their pollen can't pollinate themselves. They have to be pollinated by somebody else. And this list, what it tells you is which pollinator group, because obviously if you have an apple that blooms in April, let's say, and another one late March, well, they're not going to be able to pollinate each other because there's no overlap. So this site gives you those lists of what can overlap, and they have it through A through H. And actually then they have also a list of harvest time, so you can see, well, if I want harvest all the year, which ones to grow. Okay, so there's the apples there. And then Sharon provided this list, there's some back there, of all the apples that are in this orchard and where they're located, actually.
Yeah, so that's by alphabetical, and then there's another Excel, just it lists by rows and columns where each tree is.
And those were all sent to everybody, so you might even have that on your phone right now if you check your emails.
Each tree doesn't have an ID on each one.
Some of them have tags on, and some of them have a big, newer metal tag like you see back there. And some of them only have little aluminum tags hanging somewhere in the tree. And when the trees are in leaf, it's next to impossible to find them.
So if I may, let's focus our questions on varieties as Graham is doing. And so we can focus on the varieties here because there's so many great questions that we'll have as we walk around in the orchard and look at the actual trees.
Yeah.
So any
Just
more
a housekeeping thing,
There's some
Yes.
other question.
just to be aware that there's a meeting that's coming up scheduled for November 17th, right, Jenny?
Yeah.
Yes, I mentioned that, but
Okay.
there's more announcements at the end of this before we go on our tour. Yeah.
So 10,000 varieties, how many of those are still in existence? How many?
So some of the you're right. Some are in the listing. They'll say they know about it, but they can't find a thing. But there's people up in the Gold Rush area in southern Oregon that all they do is go look for apple trees, old apple trees, and figure out what they are. And there's another group, I think, in New York State. I actually have a friend who goes up in the East Bay Mud area, which you're not allowed to, but he does. And he's finding all these pear trees and apple trees and that. We have no clue what they are, but they're really old. So anyway, so if you see an apple, when the tour and you don't know what it is, most probably can look it up in those books. Okay, that's all I have to say.
There are also a lot of new varieties, like my friend Freddie Mange is hybridizing a lot of his, hybridizing some of the trees that are his favorites. So, and a lot of red flesh apples are coming out of his breeding program, Jim Ryder's breeding program, and the Skill Colt guy up in Ukiah is also breeding interesting varieties.
And here is the list of our varieties that we'll be tasting today. And they are arranged for your tasting pleasure from the mildest and sweetest to the more exciting, tart, maybe even astringent at the far end.
So with each variety, I've got the name, and then I also listed Brix reading. That's the reading I got in the last few days. What Brix mean in the juice, how much dissolved solids there's in there. So that's kind of a complicated explanation, but really mostly it's sugar. Its content is sugar, and so a little flavor characteristic. And some history and parenting information, and where this apple was from, and what time period it was first developed. So John.
Let's begin. Our first variety, Hudson's Golden Gem. What can you tell us about Hudson's Golden Gem? One of my favorites, for sure. Anybody else?
My favorite.
A lot of people mistaken this for an Asian pear if they didn't know about this variety, because it kind of looks like an Asian pear. even has some of the mild grittiness of an Asian pear.
Mm. It's generally taller than it is wide. A lot of russeting, and a unique flavor.
It's a seedling that was discovered in a hedgerow in Orenco, Oregon, and that was back in the 1920s. For many years, there was a fruit tasting at Filoli, a fall fruit tasting, and it consistently came out on the top.
It's a very unique flavor, unlike many other apples.
It is actually a russet, a true russet, if it has a chance.
This particular one is about half.
This one
There's
is
a little bit of red on the blush side, really beautiful.
and this one is very russet.
Yeah. And it's kind of a mid to late season apple, I would call it. Next one.
Smokehouse.
A cider type, I might say. The Smokehouse Apple. Anybody heard of that one?
No.
So I know that the people making cider like this one. Any other historical info?
It comes from
yeah.
Pennsylvania. I'm not quite sure about that.
Yeah.
And the name Smokehouse is where it was. It's a seedling, and it was discovered growing next to the wall of a smokehouse. So it was like 1850s or
Nice and
1840s.
flat.
Yeah, 1830.
1837.
A wee bit of russeting at the top. A very short stem. These are all characteristics you can identify apples with if you don't know one. Short stem. How deep is the calyx in the bottom? That's another distinctive thing. This is, an innie. So there you go, Smokehouse. And the sweet side, though, interesting. Our next one.
Smokehouse is a little bit past its prime, so that's why it's on the sweeter side. The acidity has receded.
Our next one.
Mutsu.
Mutsu, also known as Crispin, is another name for this. A classic Japanese bred apple. So this is probably the smallest one I've seen.
Yeah.
They're usually literally twice as big, bigger than my fist, certainly, on your own trees, easily grown that big.
They also tend to be wider on the bottom and lopsided. Almost all of them are lopsided.
And they have these freckles we call lenticels that are fairly common in it, and its large size. It's also unique that it's pollen sterile. So not only does it need cross-pollination, it can't return the favor. So you need to have a self-fertile tree next to it or 3 trees for a nice little threesome, if you know what I mean. A classic kind of just, we're still in the sweet zone, okay?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Next one, Ida Red.
yeah, look at that. Beautiful.
What is it again?
Ida Red. Ida Red.
Red apple from Idaho.
Oh,
A modern selection, I think. Modern bred.
Let's see,
suspect
Ida
it's
Red, 1930s.
Red Delicious.
A Red Delicious parent, 1930s. So this, last century, but that's a good.
Yeah, other things I listed here, it's a heavy cropper.
Yeah.
And a good keeper.
Yeah, it's solid. Speaking of solid, who's from East Coast, New York? Anybody? This one, the Northern Spy.
oh yeah.
Famous from New York and the Esopus Lakes, Finger Lakes area up there.
Are there varieties that are more or less resistant to codling moth? And if there are, could you point this out?
That's a great question. There are some that seem to get less codling moth. And off the top of the head, anybody?
Denser flesh, Newtown Pippin, for instance, the denser flesh for a longer part of the season.
And a
discourages,
denser skin, really, too. Kind of a chewy skin. Mm-hmm. So, tell us about Northern Spy.
1840s. This one is a little bit on the early side. It's usually late October. Heavy cropper and good keeper.
It's so flavorful and good. Anybody from New York that's had them will say that the California ones aren't worth eating because the problem here, as Todd has talked about over at Filoli too, when these apples are coming off the trees, it's some of our hottest weather. Late September, early October, we're hitting 100 degrees. These apples want to be in upstate New York or jolly old England, Northern Europe, where it's already frosty and cool. That's how they go into the storage. But this is an outstanding one. Also associated with Harriet Tubman. If you want to read, there's some beautiful kids books about her association with this variety because she lived up in upstate New York as she was doing her work, on the trail. And so this apple, she was punished for eating apples on the plantation. And so when she freed herself, she was really proud to be eating apples from her own trees, and this was the variety. That's the story.
Okay, so it gets really hot here, and the trees are somewhat thin in foliage compared to commercial ones. So commercial northern spies are going to be striped, not a solid red. Very characteristic, and everybody back east can recognize a northern spy when they see them.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of the lenticels and a little bit of striping, but these are in more full sun, so they're heavily colored.
And it's a classic pie for classic apple for pies.
Ooh, this is a beautiful one. Another
Go ahead.
shorter than it is wide. A little bit of russeting at the top. I love the range of colors from the shady side to the sun-kissed side there. What's the name?
Connell Red from 1950s. This is a mutation of Fireside.
I think it's descended from. Senior moment here.
Yes.
It'll come to me. Anyway, a very, very white, snow-like flesh inside.
So mutation, so it wasn't open pollinated or crossbred? Is it mutation?
Yeah,
So
it's a mutation.
It's a spontaneous changes to the gene.
Like one branch of a tree will have an apple that's a little bit different. It'll have a different quality to it. Sometimes very different, sometimes subtly different, just a color change. But those are called, bud mutations.
Macintosh
sport.
was what I was
It's
trying to
another
think
term.
of.
Which one?
Macintosh.
Oh, yeah. So
think it's
related to
descended- I
Macintosh.
think it's
Sure, you can
descended
see
from
that a little
Macintosh.
bit. So that's the Connell Red. Our next one,
It's also very aromatic. Orenco.
Orenco is our next one. We're halfway through here.
Sweet,
you
juicy
taste some, I
subacid
Subacid, yeah.
from Oregon.
Flat, striped, a little bit of russeting in the crown. Medium length stem there.
I think from the 1930s.
Yeah, this one has very red skin and oftentimes and very white flesh, but the red skin sometimes stains the flesh.
A little pink inside.
Can you explain the term subacid?
Huh?
I think you used the word subacid. Can you explain that?
Acid, subacid. What is it? What do those terms mean when you use those?
I understand that it means it's a more subtle acidity. Is that?
Todd?
Yeah,
How
Todd.
is it?
It's actually the opposite. It's a word that was used in nursery catalogs to warn people that this thing is a decidedly tart apple.
So they might as well
Thank
just
you.
drop the sub and just say
Exactly,
acid.
exactly.
So that's nursery talk. You know what I mean? We want you to buy this. It's just subacid. It's not really acid.
It's acidic enough to just make it interesting.
So now, see, we're halfway through, and now we're starting to get interesting.
Yeah.
Question?
Yes. When they say acid, do they mean a change in the pH?
It is literally
There's
the
malic.
acidity in the flesh and the juice.
Yeah, there's a test
It
they
is
do besides
acidity.
bricks. It's malic acid. Do they
Yeah,
test for?
right.
So here's the next one.
Yeah, and most of the acid in apples is malic acid, and malic acid is part of what gives you this appley flavor.
Our next one is Wayne. Cute little apple.
Not a whole lot is known about Wayne. It's from the 1950s, New York. Sweet, some tartness, mid to late summer. The two Wayne trees have a lot of apple on it. So if you like this, you could pick some.
Take one home.
So again, if we're lucky, we might see some of these as scions at the sign exchange. Our next one.
Duchess Mignonne.
Ooh, I like the look of this one. It feels real solid. Rusting at the top, very shallow neck, and almost the stem is almost absent. It's barely has a stem in
Okay,
there.
it's a European apple. Unfortunately, this one
And
is
the other end is
misnamed.
also really shallow.
The actual name of it is Dutch Mignonne.
Dutch
Mignonne. Which comes
When it
from
comes to the
Netherlands.
United States, we drop all those European names and make up our own.
Maybe so.
So I have been Duchess Mignonne is how it's labeled. So I've been searching all over the internet. The closest thing sounding like it is Dutch Mignonne. But when I pull up its photo on Pommiferous,
Doesn't look like.
it does not look like it. So that's why I'm keeping this name while I continue to search for its identity.
They're very distinctive looking, though. Like, how many apples really have that look? So.
Yeah.
Could it look different just because of the growing environment?
I think growing condition can change to some extent. Like sometimes apples could get really tall or more round, but the
firmness of the flesh is going to be constant wherever it is grown.
yeah, like how shallow this cavity is. It looks more almost like an outie
It's almost flat.
belly
This one,
button.
yeah.
That's a characteristic that won't change much.
I've seen that different growing conditions can especially affect, even on one side of the tree to the other, the color, the sunburn, the under color they talk about, and then there's another like a green or yellow underneath, and then a red layer comes on top with some sun, and then you might mistaken sunburn for part of the color being there. So there's a lot of I think rootstocks can even change some characteristics of a fruiting tree. So good question. Let's continue.
Newtown
classic.
Pippin.
Newtown Pippin. What does Pippin mean again?
Seedling.
So there's lots of Pippins. In fact, almost every variety that we eat is essentially a Pippin. It's an English word for seedling.
So true.
So don't be confused when you see this kind of Pippin or that kind of Pippin and think they're related. They're
Not at
probably
all.
not. This is a very special one, though. Do you want to say anything about it in context of Santa Cruz and everything?
So this apple was grown extensively in Santa Cruz and Watsonville County. Santa Cruz County is like Watsonville. And this apple is also the foundation flavor of Martinelli apple cider.
Originally.
Yeah.
Now it is, they got sold out and et cetera. So they've sourced from far away. But but this is such a great late season apple, a really great storage late season apple. People don't know that it can actually get yellow Newtown Pippin. It'll get a nice yellow blush. It has this russeting on top. It's always squat late season, a little bit tough on the skin, but it's just so good. And it was so revolutionary in the time of its discovery in the late 1700s that the tariffs, we're talking about tariffs now, aren't we? The tariffs that England put on all the American fruit were dropped for this variety because it was so favored. They needed this apple. And
I think by Queen Victoria's favorite.
And I think even like Ben Franklin was around in Paris, like, yeah, try one of these from America, like that.
Is that the Big Apple? The name of the Big Apple? 'Cause I've heard that.
Yeah, so this one was very popularly grown in Long Island, but I think its original source was a seedling in the Queensboro. And so, yes, the Big Apple, maybe, because, wait, Todd, do you have any comments on that? Any of that?
Just a comment is this apple is an example of popular misbelief. It's a green apple when it is picked and stored for some period of time, and everybody assumes when they see them, if they see them in the store, it's a green apple. It's for cooking. In fact, it is a good apple for cooking, but it is a travesty to use this for cooking because it is the finest apple produced in the United States.
Ooh, you heard it from the man right there.
But you have to buy it in the store and leave it sitting on the kitchen counter for a couple of weeks, and then it has developed its full flavor.
It's a great point that some of these apples were bred for storage. Back before we had controlled atmosphere and CO2 and all this stuff, the way they store them for 12 months out of the year now, so you're eating the same variety year round. These were bred to not be eaten straight off the tree. Many of them are just, as we get down to the end here, they're much better in a few months. So wonderful.
Yeah, the complexity really improves.
So we're on to one that I have a little story
Yes.
about.
On the storage, you actually put them in the fridge.
Oh, yeah.
I guess they're a lot better tasting if you put them in the fridge for a few months.
Best stored at 34 degrees if you can pull that off. Some of my friends have chest freezers that they're able to change the thermostat, a special thermostat, and they keep them just above freezing, and they're fantastic storage. So here's one that I know a little bit about. I grew up in Southern California, born in Los Angeles, grew up in Long Beach, and I had heard about this apple for many years called Pettingill. In fact, it became one of the favored ones of this guy whose name is Axel, who used to live around here in Santa Cruz. He had a collection of apples. He is Swiss German, and he had all these German apples and stuff. He claimed that this was his favorite pie apple. And so I said, and I saw that it was from Long Beach, a low chill apple from Long Beach.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to check that out. And so I did the research and I found a patent for it back in the 50s. And the guy, Pettingill, was an engineer in Seal Beach. And the original tree is actually discovered in Seal Beach, which is the adjacent town to Long Beach, where I used to go body surfing and stuff. And I said, okay. And I said, this is the internet. It's scary. I'm sorry. I am a fruit stalker. So don't turn me in, but I'll confess right here and now. I looked at the address of the patent applicant, Mr. Pettingill, and I saw the address there in Seal Beach. I said, oh, Google Maps, Street View. I am cruising around his block looking for old apple trees on Street View, digitally, virtually. And I found a couple that I said, hey, those look like deciduous trees in a subtropical place like that. Visiting my mom in Long Beach, I said, hey, let's go visit this place nearby. I left a note because no one was there. I found out later through a discussion group, she said, hey, did somebody come by my place? And, I'd love to talk to you. And just off a discussion group, she found me, or I found her. We went back, me and my mom. We sat down with the granddaughter of Mr. Pettingill. The original trees had been removed, and an apartment building or a duplex was built there where she lived. The next generation, second generation Pettingill trees were next door there. We ate from the trees. It was a little late in the season, but she shared with us pies and applesauce, etc. So we got to sit down, and she showed us all kinds of clippings because it was Walter Anderson. What's the name of the nursery?
No, it's Armstrong.
Armstrong, thank you. Armstrong Nursery helped him get it patented. So anyway, I did get cuttings and I did distribute them through our sign exchanges, original cuttings from the second generation from Seal Beach. And it's a low chill one. They get much larger and they can get a little better color, but let's see how we like it today.
So another thing I'll add about Pettingill is just strictly out of observation. I had gotten like about 100 of these fruit about a month ago when the branches are sagging to the ground, and so I wanted to cut those off. I wanted to cut it off because that's in the peak of the harvest season. That's when you can tell how much the branch is going to drop, because if you wait until all the fruits come off, the branch is going to get higher. So I cut off several branches, and so I ended up with hundreds of fruit that's just slightly underripe. So I took them home and I made applesauce with it. I've done that with several other trees. And so I was observing none of the Pettingill apples had codling moth damage, whereas other varieties did. And I made a point, like after the first 20 or so, I started really looking for codling moth damage, and there wasn't any.
Okay. Okay.
So answer
From my
to your
hometown,
question.
And it's low chill. I mean, 2 blocks from the ocean in Seal Beach in Southern California, we're talking less than 100 hours of chill. That's how low chill. And resistant to codling moth? Somebody said it was their best pie apple? Okay, let's try it.
And it has really complex flavor for a low chill apple. So,
The
Erwin Bauer.
Erwin Bauer, let me get this in the sun for you.
Erwin Bauer is a German apple.
What is the name of that one?
Erwin Bauer, number 12.
And we did send out this list to you. Check your emails. We have that list is there in this order, I believe. So there it is. A little deep there, short stem, a little bit of rusting on top, like many stripes on the side.
It's really gorgeous and it could get really big, and it's tart unless it's fully ripe.
Where are we at in its ripeness?
I think it's starting to get sweeter, but I think it's just right now. This year, because of the heat we had, and then the water got cut off to the orchard. So even in the same fruit, on one side it's one taste, on the other side it's totally a different apple to me. So there's some of that. So if you find that something didn't taste as good as you expected to, take another piece a little further away.
Let me also mention this discoloration you might notice in some of the varieties that we have today. It's a translucent look to the flesh rather than being solid white or tan or yellowish. It's kind of translucent. You familiar with this water core phenomenon? And so this is actually sucrose has trouble distributing itself in the cells and concentrates and creates these little, almost like little sugar veins in it or something. It's very sweet. Some people think it's a defect. I think I'm attracted to this actually. It can ferment quicker though. What else would I say about that? Maybe a slightly overripe or certainly very nicely ripened.
In Japan, people think of water core, getting water core in their apple is hitting the jackpot.
We hit the jackpot today with that.
Erwin Bauer, and also Belle Boskoop has a lot of it too.
So here's our next one.
Parmentier. I know very little about it. I couldn't find much information.
It's even more russeted than the little golden russet, which we find commonly in our tastings.
So it's quite high in sugar. Some are acidic and some are not. Just each fruit is different, but they're all fairly high in tannins. So it's an interesting, it's an acquired taste. The tannin in apple is an acquired taste.
It's fully russeted. It has a nice dark green color. I think these russeted fruits are just so beautiful. A longer stem, smallish. So on to, contrastingly, a really big, beautiful Dutch variety. Belle de Boskoop. Boskoop. Boskoop?
Boskoop in German, right?
Thank you.
No, I think
He's picking some fresh off the tree for us. But this is another highly flavored, really beautiful. I mean, it belongs in a painting, doesn't it? Nice and flat, very big rusting across the whole crown of it. Right. Here she's got another one for us.
This is kind of medium for Boskoop.
Yeah, they get huge.
Yeah.
And they're at the end of their season now. They're a kind of a mid-season apple, I would consider them. Yeah. Maybe even early is okay too, a little bit green.
It's fantastic for cooking. High acid, a lot of people find it just a little too intense to eat, but cooking mellows out the acidity, and it makes great pies and sauces.
Ooh. And almost no stem in there.
How about moth? How are they with the moth?
I don't know.
I have not had a problem. I haven't had a major problem with them. In fact, they pretty much avoid it.
One of them came from the ground.
More.
We
got 4 more. We're going to buzz through here because I'm getting hungry. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
So we have the Bramley seedling. Sounds British.
Yeah, it's probably the most popular British cooking apple. Unlike many other cooking apples, like Americans like their apple to hold their shape as they cook, British like it to cook into a puree.
To a sauce.
Yeah.
Fine sauce. And it's got a very round look to it. This one's more flat, but the stem is, again, very shallow in it. But it's a classic from the UK. And Another classic from the UK, I believe.
Yes.
Ooh, this is one of my favorites. This is a very small one. We left you a small one to look at. They do get bigger, but another.
But not a whole lot more.
Yeah, flat,
We'll take the tip
longer
off.
stem.
What is it?
Ashmead's Kernel. It's really, really intense. It's
dense and flavorful.
yeah, it's probably and it has very high sugar content. I think Mark likes it when it's very, very green. This could get so intense that it almost hurts to eat.
Some people like that. Here's another Roxbury Russet, a nice yellowish flat one, short stem, russeting.
This Roxbury Russet is the first named variety from North America. So it originated in the 1700s. However, from Roxbury, Massachusetts. However, I'm not totally convinced this is the actual Roxbury because we grow Roxbury at home. And they're usually bigger fruit. They're more green.
Yeah.
And it's a classic Russet apple flavor. It's acidic when it's just picked and it mellows out. But this one, when I tasted the other day, it made me go, ooh, it's so good. But I almost couldn't finish the whole apple.
Too sour?
That was how intense that was. It was very high sugar and very high acid. And I told the park ranger, you should go try that one. It's so intense that it was almost a little painful to eat.
Just to add to that, for many years there was in Sonoma County a nursery that propagated old varieties of apples. And they used to put on tastings at places like Common Ground, now gone, in Palo Alto, in November. And I remember I helped them out slicing apples for this tasting that I had. And there was this lady who'd had a piece of Roxbury Russet. She said, oh, and she spat it out. I said, what's the matter with it? This apple tastes too much.
That was the old Sonoma Antique Apple Nursery that is now Trees of Antiquity. They sold it, but the Harrisons ran that, and yeah, they still comment on our listserv and up there in Redwood occasionally. This one looks very similar to the Newtown Pippin, but this is another very old American apple, one of the first named in the Americas from the United States, or Rhode Island greening. And it's our last one in our tasting. Anything you want to say about it?
This is probably early by just a week or so, but I tasted it the other day. It has already developed really high sugar content, but it's still a little firm. But I just want to throw it in for variety.
Because we need the ends, the bookmarks, right? So, any other comments before we kind of line up here? We're going to have a little bit of order to the process. We don't want to just mob the table because we'll want to taste everything. So if we go in a more of a linear fashion, starting from this side and proceeding across, we can get the kind of the way we've set it up for you, the way Sharon set it up for you.
Otherwise, if you go the other way, these low acid table apples are going to taste really boring. It's similar to wine tasting.
Are any of these varieties more shade loving?
Well, let's talk about the cultivation of these trees next as we take our walk.
Great.
Toothpicks?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Please use toothpicks. There's one container at the end, one in the middle.
You can.
And there should be more.
Just don't poke them all. Just poke the one you want and eat it. If you need another toothpick, there's more on the rest of the table. There was another question.
Yeah, two quick things. DNA testing you can get for anything for like $120 if you got $120.
I heard it's down to $50 for apples.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I just wanted to mention that if anybody wants to know. And other things, no Etters. You know the local guy?
We have a few Etter varieties. There are two Etter Golds, no fruit on it. There was a Wixon that had a single fruit on it. You'll see some of these trees, they really got stunted from past cultural practices.
There are not very many in this orchard because most of the Etter varieties were lost when they were rediscovered. It wasn't until after this orchard had been planted out.
Ah, thank you.
And that's Ram Fishman that did a lot of that work. If you want to read about those cultivars, he used to live right up there in the Ettersburg area. So let's talk about more stuff. Let's get to the tasting, please. Let's just start here. Whoever's closest, let's just begin.